You was just telling me about a story of a police chase of an action. Do you want to share that now? Yeah. This is the microphone here, so do you want to hold it?
We were coming down in our vans and two police cars drove past us just as we're pulling up to Muller, and we're like, oh shit, and we see them carry on going. We're like, okay, maybe it's fine, and we jump out the vans, and I'm like the last one to come out of the van, and I see them coming back, and I'm like, police, and so we hurtle off down like the bridleway, and it's all of us running, and then suddenly we hear these like thundering footsteps because he's like really loud, and then he grabs onto my backpack, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gone, and then he just lets go. I was so really confused. And then he carries on and he's grabbing like everyone, but there's nothing he can really like do with it, and it's really funny. So we just carry on running, and he even throws my sister to the ground.
His sister, yeah.
Yeah, and
but then he just kept on running.
Just kept running. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were running down this bridleway, but the problem was I've been waiting to pee for so long.
Oh.
Like so long. It was really bad. It was getting to like painful point. I was like, I can't run anymore. So I run round the corner. And I'm like, this is it, I've got to go, otherwise I'm peeing. And so I'm like peeing on the side, and Zuki, she runs round.
Yeah.
And is like, Tatum, what are you doing? He's coming. And so, yeah, but then I get up, carry on, and we're like, how are we going to do it? And so there's people like climbing over the fences into Muller. Oh, what are we doing?
What were you closing down?
Oh, yeah. Why we were doing it. Was because we were closing down Muller, which is a distribution factory for dairy, and Animal Rising, one of their core things is making a plant-based food system, and because 76% of land is taken up by animal agriculture, and if that was rewilded, we'd have a complete carbon drawdown even if we carried on. Obviously we shouldn't, so that's what we were saying. We're also saying no to animal abuse. And so, yeah, we were blocking the distribution centre for a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, but that got stopped by the Queen dying.
The Queen dying.
The Queen died, so we did.
The Queen died?
Yeah, I was in my cell, and they come in and like, oh, you're probably not, the sergeant, he was actually quite a friendly sergeant, and he came in and he was like, you're not going to know this, but the Queen's just died. And I was like, oh really? And he was like, well, now you can tell everyone that you were in the nick when it happened, so you've got an alibi. I was like, oh, that's good. I was probably a prime suspect. Joking. Yeah. Anyway, we carried on running down the path, and we got to the gates, and they saw us coming. They were like, shit, they're coming again. So they closed up the gates, but what they didn't know was the plan instead this time was to glue the gates shut, so they had just done what we wanted, and we glued onto the gates, and they were like, shit, no one could get in and out now. So that was pretty good. Allegedly.
All of it. Yeah, that was all fiction. So I want to ask, was that your so two questions? Was that your first action, and how did you feel the night before your action?
So that set of actions was my first like proper actions ever. I'd done like XR sitting in the roads, but then nothing like this. And yeah, so before it, I didn't feel much about it because I couldn't imagine what it was going to be like. But on the first one, it was like really dark. It was like early morning, and we were walking down, and yeah, it was really, really scary. I had so many butterflies, and we had to climb over this really, really tall fence, and we were at the top of the fence. I was like, this is horrible. Why am I doing this? This is a terrible idea. And then, no, after doing it the first time, I was like quite shaken up. But then after doing it the second time, I was like, I want to go again. That was so good. We did so good. So it very quickly changes from being panic to being really good. Well, it's still really scary every time, but it's weird. Yeah.
It kind of gets addictive doing these actions, really, doesn't it? Like, really addictive. In fact, just raise your hand in this group. Who's done Arrestable Action here? almost all of you. Can I ask about your experience in Arrestable Actions? Was it this all the same actions, or were there different actions?
Well, we started together doing the dairy campaign because that's what got me involved. She signed up and I was like, oh, it could not be me. And then I went to a talk at the National Animal Rights March and I was like, oh, actually, maybe I should do it. And if my little sister can, then I don't really have an excuse. Yeah, so we did the dairy campaign together and like, it was definitely allegedly. And it was so the right thing to do. Because just once I'd done it once, I was like, yeah, I'm going again. And then we've continued doing the odd actions and bits and bobs. And the actions themselves, as much as they're scary, they're really enjoyable because you know why you're doing it and it feels right. But the actual consequences, now it's getting to the legal stuff in the court, it's not so fun.
No, it's not really, is it?
No.
No, if you're free, come tomorrow.
How did you feel the night before your first action?
Bring your friends.
The night before our first action, we literally just arrived at our safe house, and then we were there like a few hours, and then it was sleep, and we left in the morning at like 1 a.m. So we didn't really have a night before. We just arrived, and they were like, "Okay, you're off then." And I think because we didn't know what to expect, it wasn't that scary because it just felt so bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because you don't know what to expect.
So was it more scary for you in the morning, on the way there?
I think it got more scary the longer we were there because I really needed the toilet, and I can't pee in public, so that was. And the police were quite bad because, like, if we tried to pee, they'd wave at us and make eye contact and stuff. So it's just such a strange experience. I don't know.
They fully, when we were trying to get Suki to actually pee, they kept on, when we had maybe have done it, they were like, thumbs up or thumbs down, like that. I was like, that's so inappropriate, what are you doing? It was so funny.
That might change. It might depend on who's in it.
Yeah.
You were scared going up that ladder.
How old are you guys, if you don't mind me asking? Sorry, 2 questions. How old are you? And how did you first find out about the climate crisis?
I'm 23, and I found out probably like as soon as I could understand because I was raised vegan. So when I was quite young, it was explained the whole dairy stuff, especially the cows, and that for the milk, the mum cows have to be pregnant and then their babies have to be taken away. And especially as a child, that's something you can really relate to because you're like, nothing about that is right. And I know I was looking through like all my diaries and stuff of when I was little, and it's like, if you could have one wish, and I'm like, for everyone to go vegan or save the planet, and that's me at like 4. So I think it was raised pretty core to who I am.
Yeah, I'm 20 and of a similar situation as we're sisters. I remember from a very young age knowing about like global warming and stuff. But yeah, when I turned to about 15, 16, it became more the climate crisis. And like I knew it was bad beforehand, but that's when I was getting to 16, I was understanding how bad it was. Like it was still felt more far away when I was younger. But yeah, now learning about all the stuff like when I was part of XR and things, it just like put it more in perspective of how bad it is and understanding that more. But yeah.
Let me know if you want this to come to an end at any point, because I've got more questions. Where do you see your activism going in the future? Do you see yourself carrying on, getting a bit more intense, taking it easy?
Well, how I've been doing it now is good, but for me, I'm going a little easy just to keep track, because once all the legal stuff comes around, you can't be in court like all the time. And so, especially as it will be my first time going through all the legal process because they've all like bunched together. slowing down or at least doing things that don't make those cases worse, but still very much helping out how I can.
How many court dates have you got?
I've only got 2 trial dates in the book, but there's another trial that's coming up. Yeah, so 2 public nuisance in the Crown Court and 1 other one in the Magistrates.
What was the question?
How do you see your activism unfolding in the future? Are you going to go more hardcore or take it easy?
I think for me, because I know soon I'm going to basically get banned. I see that coming very soon. Yeah, I see that coming. But I think that will be the point. That'll be the point where I'll give it a break. And then I think after that time is done, I'd probably go back to it and just see it more like a cycle. And during those times when I can't do anything, like behind the scenes stuff is really, really important, and I'd like to be involved with that as much as possible as well. And like, I think building the community aspect would be really nice to like bring more people in, because when there's even more of us doing these actions, the worse it's going to be for them. So if we can build that community as well, I can do that and not get arrested, hopefully. Not with these new bills.
Have you got any more funny action stories you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do actually. The most recent one, we were doing we were doing the Scottish Grand Nationals, and so we went up to Scotland and we were waiting at the Tesco. Like, the Tesco backed onto the Grand Nationals. It was kind of weird, and yeah, I wasn't expecting to go at this moment, but we suddenly decided we were going, and so we were walking down, and then suddenly everyone was running towards the track, and I was like, shit, I can't run that fast, like, they're gonna get me before I've even got on. So we're filtering through the car park instead so I can get over. And so we climb over the fence. I'm like, there's not enough time to glue on or anything, so just running as fast as I can, which isn't that fast, onto the track. And I'm running down the track like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't see anything around me. And then suddenly I'm slammed to the ground by a police officer with full weight on me. I'm like, shit. And then when we were in the police van, what made it funny is he was like, I was running after you, and the security guard was trying to do the same thing and body slam you as well, but he missed and fell over. There's really a picture of him trying to get up next to me. And he,
On national news.
yeah, and the police officer was saying that he was like laughing his head off, and he found it so hard to keep running after me because he thought it was so funny. So that's pretty good.
That is actually hilarious. Well, thank you for sharing your stories. It's all this, by the way. That's all fiction. None of that really happened, you know. So no. Hopefully, yeah. Well, is there anything you'd like to say? Any last things you'd like to round up with? Have you a message on my Activism Uncensored podcast? No pressure.
I don't know. Maybe. No, I have nothing. Nothing in my brain.
I can attest there's nothing in her brain. I would just say for anyone thinking about getting involved in direct action that is nowhere near as scary as you think it's going to be. And it's such a wonderful thing to do, because once you're doing it, it's just so right. And I don't know, it's hard to talk about without sounding really hippie, but it's a really, really good thing to do. And they should just dabble their toe and go to a direct action training, and you don't have to commit then, but it's just a really good thing to get yourself involved with.
I'll just end by saying, personally for me, instead of sitting on the sidelines and just seeing this crisis unfold, taking direct action, you're actually trying to do something. And I think that's much better for your conscience, and you think, oh shit, I'm actually trying to do something now. And not only that, you meet a lot of people who are like-minded and who are brave and who are also trying to do something as well. Yeah, so in my opinion, you should definitely sign up for Action with Animal Rebellion, Animal Rising, or AR, if you want to call it, XR, or just Stop Oil, if you fancy it. Yeah. Tune in for another episode of Activism Uncensored.
I guess it's